Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you all here. It's our second webinar of the series Using Mobile Phone Data for Official Statistics. This webinar is promoted by UN Big Data Regional Hub in Brazil with support of the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean to the Knowledge Transmission Network of the Statistical Conference of the Americas. You can visit the Regional Hub webpage at hub.ibge.gov.br, where you can read about future webinars and workshops. Additionally, you may access the records of our activities if you missed any. One last statement. The UNMPD Task Group has recently released 5 books on using mobile phone data for statistics. Along with the methodology, these guides also provide some case studies. Tourism, migration, information societies, displacement and disaster statistics, and dynamic population mapping are the topics that those guides focus on. I will put the link for this content in the chat in a minute. And now it's time to talk about migration statistics. In modern world, human populations are very mobile, moving quickly from one location to another. And as a result, migration is one of the most challenging things to understand and also to measure. In this webinar, we will hear about producing migration statistics. Our first speaker is Cynthia Barros. She's an information management coordinator of the International Organization for Migration, UN Migration in Brazil. Cynthia, it's a pleasure having you here, and the floor is yours. Please.
So, like Maria said, my name is Cynthia, and I work on IOM, the UN Agency for Migration. It's a really pleasure to be here with you. I go to share my screen. 1 minute. Can you see?
Yes, Cynthia, go ahead.
Okay. So today my voice is not very good, so if you have difficulties to understand me, please stop and ask. So today I'm going to talk about the use of mobile data for migration statistics. During this presentation, I'm gonna show you a little about IOM, its objectives, who its beneficiaries are, and I will introduce our reference document, the IOM Migration Data Strategy, which includes how we work with innovative data, such as big data. And finally, today's main topic, which is how to use telephone data. I'm going to talk about a concrete experience of our colleagues in Ecuador and Colombia. As time is short, the perspective here is open doors. The idea is not to go into little technical details, but to show possibilities and ways of going deeper in the subject. So let's start. So it's very fast. The IOM was created in 1951, but only in 2019 did it become a UN agency and coordinate UN network on migration. So IOM is committed to the principle that safe, human, orderly, and dignified migration benefits all. It's just an introduction. For IOM, the word migrants is an umbrella term, which is defined as a person who moves away from his or her place of usual residence, whether within a country or across an international border, temporarily or permanently. Therefore, we work both with the idea of international migration and with the idea of internal migration or internal displacement. So, today, IOM Brazil has 13 offices and more than 150 employees. We work with several activities, both in direct assistance to migrants, with medical care, distributions of food or goods, guidance on obtaining documents, but also with improving the government capacities. And of course, the advocacy for proper migration governance. Most of our staff is located in Boa Vista and Pacaraima, border with Venezuela, for humanitarian response in Brazil, ELCAM operation. One of our line of actions is information management and research, which I am responsible in Brazil. But IOM is global reference in production on migration statistics. That's why I'm staying here. So we have a global policy for producing information, the IOM Migration Data Strategy, which point us the three main types of source of information: statistical, administrative, and innovative. Brazil is a success case with regard to the abundance of information, thanks in part to our colleagues at the IBGE. In the case of statistical information, the IBGE is carrying out the demographic census, in which there is a migration block in the sample questionnaire, and we are really excited about the possibilities that exist with this data. In the case of administrative, IBGE is also involved with the treatment and availability of federal policy database, which has both entries and exits, as well as migration regularization. But we are here to talk a little bit about the last one, is the innovative sources. IOM works in humanitarian contexts, such as Ukraine, Sudan, among others. In this context, the collection and use of statistical and administrative information is, for the most part, little and non-existent. Therefore, they need to use new methodologies. Well, I will show you one of our websites. It's the Migration Data Portal. Here we systematize the tools and experience we have in their search information. Let me put here. So here we have what IOM do in this field: big data, migration, and human mobility. We have some definitions, recent developments in all worlds, you have tutorials and a lot of links about studies of these fields, and the potentials, data searches, strategies and limitations, and a lot of studies that maybe can help everyone. So we also have here the link to our experience bank here. No, here. With systematized examples, and I will show some in a moment. But before that, I would like to show you these 3 documents that you find in the site. The first one is the handbook for improving the production and use of migration data for development. It belongs to the Global Migration Group, which is larger than IOM, includes all UN consensus and guidelines on big data, which includes mobile data. The second document is the working group report. This one
Grupo de trabajo.
in the area and goes temporarily. We made new ones.
Hemos hecho nuevos temporalmente.
And the last one,
Y el último,
deeply recommend that. It's IOM Global Migration Data Analysis Center and the European Commission Knowledge Center on Migration and Demography launched the Big Data for Migration Alliance. So in this one, we have a series of initiatives exists at the UN and Europe focused on data innovation for sustainable development. So it's an open door to new studies. So the guidelines of IOM for big data migration and human mobility, point 3, big field of studies and mobile phone, internet-based data and sensor-based data. The internet-based data is data based on social media, like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. These social media have information about social demographic information, including country of origin and country of residence. The colleagues of Peru use these researches, media social database, to make xenophobia indicators in the region. And the colleagues of Colombia make these studies in Google Trends to research where the immigrants went to go. So if they put in the researches of Google, how is Colombia, how is Brazil, and so you can see what is the persons is researching. And this one is Earth observation data, most satellite images, but in IOM we use even has drones to take pictures from the borders from the countries. And here we have a strategy that use both internet and geolocalization in the social media too. It's just how you go to this in world. But we are here to talk about SDRs, or call detail records. and analysis of call detail records, SDR, could help governments and relief organizations respond more effectively to humanitarian disasters. CDRs are anonymized digital records collected by mobile network operators every time a network subscriber makes a call. Importantly, such records include information about the location of the calling and receiving end, approximated by the location of the cell tower to which the SIM card connects during the mobile phone call. So CDR collects details calls logs to provide detailed spatial temporary estimations of population, displacement, and movement, while protection customers to the privacy, because you don't have names or personal information. But it's a good methodology to make to understand massive displacements. In this case, what you have is just the identification of mobile phone movement. More generally, the estimation and prediction of migration trends, flows, and rates, notably patterns of internal migration, which are usually harder to track through traditional data sources. We have example in Haiti and Nepal earthquake, and nowadays IOM use in Ukraine situation. This method's analysis of the magnitude and duration of people in near real time. So provide us a good picture, a screenshot of the situation. For us on UN, it's provide estimates of population movements so we can provide humanitarian assistance in timely manner. This is the most common method of using the information, but nowadays we also use two different ways to do that. And I will explain now how the colleagues on Ecuador did this. So the colleagues of IOM in Ecuador use CDR together with internet researchers for the device itself. First, they choose the profile. It's here, users who make and receive calls from Venezuela or who browse websites with the point demand or recognize Venezuelan web pages or in applications of Venezuelan bank institutions such as Bank of Venezuela or Provincial. As this is a methodology to determine that the cell phone line belongs to one Venezuelan person. So what the colleagues do is hire the telephone company itself. So the company make the calls and make the analysis too. So there is no problem with protection data for analysis. With this, the colleagues are able to estimate and georeference the existence of Venezuelans in Ecuador. The difference from Brazil, when the Venezuelans go to the Pacaraima, the border between Brazil and Venezuela, in Ecuador, they are very distributed from all spread across all states. So in this exercise, the details consist in generate the cellular use, of Claro mobile telephone subscribers according to their distribution of radio bases in Ecuador, identify the unique people who made or received calls from destination Venezuela in study period and are activity with their cell line and the end of the period, identify the unique people who browse web pages with the domain from Venezuela or important websites in Venezuela in the study period and our activity with the sales line and end of the period. Determinate the 5 cantons of residence with highest density of Claro users that meet with IOM profile, so we can understand where they are, where the Venezuelans are, and apply information expansion technique to extrapolate the information to total population estimate by the group that stood 4 months of the study period in the states in Ecuador, and view the information dashboard with allows dynamic visualization on geolocalization patterns of residence and work with this profile. So the colleagues, after this exercise, they made a household research within these places. So they use this methodology to identify the regions from Venezuelan migrants, and after that they apply a survey, a big survey with all information. So SDR is a good tool, but needs to be together with other studies and to provide more big scenario and big image. I bring other experience here from the colleagues of Colombia. Colombia did not use the SDR experiment itself, but they nevertheless use the cell phone experiments. They distribute free Wi-Fi to migrants in all borders of Colombia, on border with Venezuela, Peru, Ecuador. In all borders, they distribute free Wi-Fi, and to the Venezuelan access the Wi-Fi, Venezuelan or other people, they need to enter your mail and answer a short questionnaire, and this questionnaire changes time by time, so we can collect more and more information. So in this case, we have phone, but you don't have the big companies involved because you have the structure of Wi-Fi. It's very interesting experience. Again, on the Migration Data Portal website, we have some examples. Most examples have combined SDR researches with other sources. For example, the combination of SDR with satellite data can help to map movements between cross-border communities. SDR combined with geolocated social metadata and official labor force statistics can also help to assess the social integration of migration in destination countries. This is 2 little examples of there is in this site, and this is an experience database. So the SDR also serves to remittances or patterns of mobile money transfers. But for us in IOM is now we are studying use this SDR for human trafficking, as the information collected from phone calls or text and email messages exchanged with victims can be used to understand trafficking trends, as well as to provide targets and timely assistance to victims. There are some more examples in this site also about trafficking. So it's very short, but thank you for the place. I try to use my 20 minutes. So thank you, Maria. Do you understand me well?
Yes. Thank you, Cynthia. It was a great presentation. We can understand a little bit more about migration in South America. Thank you very much. And now, our second speaker is Shorena Ciclauri, and she comes from Georgia and is a member of UNMPD Mobile Phone Data Task Team. She will discuss how mobile phone data can be used to study migration-related phenomena. Shorena, we thank you for accepting our invitation, and please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, dear Chair. Let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for inviting me and for the possibilities to present our work, UN methodological guidance on use on mobile phone data for migration statistics. My name is Shorena. I'm head of Population Census and Demographic Statistics Department here in Georgia at the National Statistical Offices at Geostat. Let me first shortly introduce about Geostat, the National Statistics Office of Georgia. It is the legal entity of public law, carries out its activities independently. It is established to produce statistics and disseminate statistical information according to Georgian legislation. The National Statistics Office of Georgia is set by the law of Georgian official statistics. Besides, the activities of the Geostat are based on the basic principles of official statistics, followed by international standards and recommendations. In 2019, the government of Georgia approved the National Strategy for Development of Official Statistics of Georgia for 2020 to 2023. The main idea and the main goal of this document is to define an overall vision of the development of national statistical system of Georgia that includes the country's national and international needs, addresses the data requirements of national policy making system, identifies the areas of priorities. And I would like to highlight that one of the priority for Geostat is to improve the migration statistics in our countries, including to introduce big data as an alternative data source to assess the migration and tourist statistics in our country. It's our pleasure that Geostat joins the UN Global Working Group on Big Data for Official Statistics in 2019 and was actively involved in developing the handbook on the use of mobile phone data. The handbook on migration statistics has been prepared by MPD task team led by Geostat with support from Prosidium, EU Joint Research Center, and UNSD. The handbook aims to inform users about the opportunities on using MPD to produce migration statistics. It represents information on the data sources, concept definitions, data processing algorithms, and quality assurance. The definitions in the book are in line with revised international recommendation on migration statistics endorsed by the 52nd session of UN Statistical Commission in March 2021. Here I put the link of the handbook, which is published at the UN webpage. I strongly recommend it to visit this webpage, and you will find all the 5 books which is prepared by the MPD task team. It is not only about migration. We also developed the handbook on tourism statistics, information society, displacement and disaster statistics, and population dynamics, and of course the migration statistics. About the migration, it is well known that concept of international migration, as a change of country of residence, it is relatively easy to understand, but it is quite difficult to capture because human mobility is not a discrete process. They used to move permanently, and also we are always change their place of usual residence. Unfortunately, our people not cross the borders illegally, but even we are crossing the border legally, sometimes we don't report they are moving. So we need some sources to study the migration, to produce the migration statistics. Despite the traditional data sources like population censuses and population registers are considered as a solid source for migration statistics, but it has its limitation. First limitation regarding the census is that we are conducted usually population census in each 10 years. The second limitation is related to the capture of the immigrants. It is very difficult during the population censuses to collect information about the immigrant because, for example, if the whole family members left the country, it is not easy to have interview anyone to collect this kind of information. Or sometimes family members are afraid to give you information about their illegal or irregular family members. So the population census is not very good source for produce immigration statistics. The population registers also has its limitation. Sometimes people don't record their movement inside the country or when we are crossing the borders. I'm talking about the international mobility. Also, administrative data like border control data can be used for producing migration statistics, but it is suggest more quantitative rather than qualitative data source. The use of mobile phone data can improve several aspects of migration statistics, such as timeliness, access to statistical information previously not available, to produce new indicators, calibration opportunities for existing data, space, and timely resolutions, and of course, the accuracy. When we are talking about the definition of internal migration, it's mainly depends on the country's definition. So each country use the definitions like they have their definition for usual population. When analyzing the MPD, the usual residence notion is often associated with 50% plus one principles. Besides, on the MPD, non-roamers data, as a starting point, it is possible to observe the persons for 12 months or more and consider him/her as the usual residence of the municipality, where more than 50 of communications like incoming, outgoing calls, SMS, internet connections have been traced in the first half of the 12 months in one municipalities, and if the same occurred in the second half of the period, we can consider this person as internal migrants. However, this criteria is not enough for defining the migrant. With the number of communications, it is also essential to specify the time based on the IPDR or CDR data. One could distinguish between nighttime and daytime population. Regarding the, from the point of view MPD, the concept of migration can be defined as an international mobility of subscribers, and we will need several steps to identify international migrants. We can apply again the 6 months criteria for this. When we are talking and when we are going to use MPD to produce official statistics, it is important to consider the following aspects. First, the availability and quality of the socio-demographic information is very important. Another possible limitations can be completeness and accuracy of the data, as they depend on the type of the devices. It is crucial to obtain the data from all mobile network operators existing in the country, since if a person changes his or her mobile operators and keeps the devices, it will be possible to track his or her activities. MPD can be difficult to access from MNOs due to privacy and other legal aspects. MPD includes
Territorios o operadores y tiene que ver con los aspectos legales y la privacidad.
It is also difficult to access this data for commercial confidentiality reasons. The geographic accuracy of so-called tossing means that even if a person is one place, her mobile phone may connect to the different antennas and swap between them automatically. Where is the discrepancy between the target population and mobile phone users? MPD captures only the subscribers, while the target population includes all the individuals who reside in the country. Certain people don't have the mobile phones at all, and there are others who have multiple numbers. Additionally, there are phone numbers that are not assigned to the people, but to the companies or machines, etc. According to the experience, the following technical and legal aspects should be considered. Legal obstacles. Data privacy laws vary a lot by country, and in many cases, the law prevents MPD from being used in statistics. Additionally, companies may have terms and conditions or non-disclosure agreements for data sharing policy. So the legislative aspect is very important and very challenging factor when we are starting to use MPD for official statistics. At the same time, statistical offices must be thinking that we need very good IT infrastructure, and with this IT infrastructure is also very crucial factors. And last not least, the data access, so-called partnership model, is also very important because MPD requires access to data from mobile network operators. Such partnership with MNOs are very important because countries tend to have multiple MNOs operating in the country. It can be a considerable challenge to gain access to data that covers the whole country. So various MNOs might have different standards for the data they collect or for the data they are willing to provide for the MPD statistics. So it is very important to think in advance about the partnership model. For example, in Georgia, Geostat don't have direct access to the data from mobile network operators, but through the Communication Commission. So we have in countries the National Communication Commission who has access to the MPD data, and through them Geostat sending them algorithms and they will produce these algorithms and send back the results. It is true, and it's worth to mentioning that unfortunately in Georgia the MPD project is still stopped, but we hope very much that we will have opportunities to test our methodology, which I described during this presentation on the real data. If you have any questions, I will be happy to answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sharina. It was a very clarifying presentation. We are now aware about the limitations and lessons learned about the use of CDRs for migration purpose. How we are open to answers. If you have some question, please put on the chat and we will answer. And to start, I will have a question for both the presenters. How do you think the National Statistics Institutes are doing their work in the subject of migration? Does the institution's agenda include these subjects? Are institutions looking for different ways to analyze and quantify migration? Cynthia, please, could you answer this question? And after you, Sharina may answer, please.
Well, like I said in my presentation, Brazil is a success case of the having information, because we have a lot of information in Brazil, statistical and administrative. It's, if I have the one point, I like to make a provocation to IBGE to include the migration questions in the continual researches that they do. But the other countries is not like Brazil. We have a lot of regions here that we don't have a good estimative of migrants in the region. So in some contexts, we like Caribbean places, we have estimatives using Facebook, because we don't have other way to make this estimative. So I think I studied a lot of demography. I'm not a demographer, but I studied a lot, and if demography knows that the basis of the demography is born, die, and migration. And it's for us on IOM, it's the center of what you do. So we emphasize the necessity that our studies in all planets have this information, but we don't have a good estimatives. So why I think it's very wonderful that we have new ways to do this this data. Thank you.
Thank you, Cynthia. Sharina, please, can you give your opinion?
Okay. Yes. So today, for the policy making and for the efficient policy making, we need data in real time. Unfortunately, traditional data sources could not access to produce statistics in real time. We need to find some new sources, some new data. MPD could be considered as an addition of sources to improve the quality of the existing variables, as well as to produce and to fill the data gaps which we have for policy making, and we must to address our users' needs. So we believe that MPD and big data in general could improve in many aspects, but as I mentioned during my presentation, to introduce big data for producing official statistics, we have some challenges and we must be ready to address these challenges. And for the SDG, MPD also could be used to to produce some statistics. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure if we have some questions. Let me see.
Maria, my
See?
colleague is here in the group, but he said that can't
Okay,
make
the chat
question.
is blocked. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know about that. So thank you for the answers, Sharina. I understand that migration is a very challenging topic in demographics, because if you think about census, we have census between 10 years or 5 years, and it's too much time for a migration, because we'll have movements. The movement of population is very fast. So we have to think about other ways to collect information about migration. And census is not enough. It's a too long period to wait for these numbers. And Cynthia, I will tell the researchers of IBG that it's necessary to put migration in our surveys, continuous surveys. I think it will be very interesting thing to do. But how Sharina said, it's not an easy question to do, because people usually are not comfortable to answer about these questions, because they are aware of, they think about security, because they are not legal migrants, so they are not comfortable to answer questions about migration. Not all of them, of course, but they have some concerns about answering the question. So it's another challenge to put to join the other challenges. But we have some things on the chat. Let me see if I can see. Tadeo saying that as there are some doubts about efficiency of the methodology, and he would like to hear about the balance, about advantage and disadvantage of using these new methodologies. Can you tell a little bit about that, the advantages and an advantage of using these new methodologies, using big data in general and MPG particularly?
Well, I go first.
Okay.
The opportunities offered by big data met some significant challenges. in IOM, we have restricted data protection. So we have ethical and privacy issues, most of some media information, but here in IOM, if the person don't know the information goes to IOM, it's a problem. So the people use the phone and needs to understand, not just read a big contract and little words said that can use, really understand the use of the information. So we have ethical and privacy problems. I think the big problem is bias, the bias of the big data. The census and households researches good samples, yes, the word samples, and strictly statistics to do that samples, but big data don't have that. And it's the problem. We have technical, analytical, and legal challenges too. We need to don't do the conclusions, something that they don't say. So this is the challenge, but in the Nepal earthquake, we have 7.8 magnitude earthquake, leaving about 2.8 million of people internally displaced. So these big movements is not in the census and timely good for the public policies. So the big data can make the real-time researches for this massive information. So I think what you need to understand is the use and the objectives of both methodologies. And for the end, like I said in my presentation, I think CDR is a good research with other methodologies involved, with other instruments or collect. The last thing is the other countries don't have the success of Brazil, so they don't have any data. So for us to do the policy, like Sharena said, is very important to have them. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharena, would you like to?
Yes, thank you for the question. I already discussed a lot about the challenges, but MPD has a lot of advantages as well. First of all, for example, in Georgia, we have internal migration according only population censuses. So we don't have any registers, any administrative sources for produce internal migration. So censuses are conducted in each 10 years, and we need more timely data. And the MPD promises us this to fill this gap. First of all, at the same time, the MPD can have the accuracy. What I mean, you can observe the migration in very small areas of the location. You can go in the regions, in the municipalities, and it is very important. Of course, subscribers is different for usual population, but as I already mentioned, we can use indirect methods to assess and to have some ways to have whole picture of the country. We don't consider and we don't recommend to replace the traditional data sources for example, for migration statistics, but we already mentioned several times, our policymakers need migration statistics in real time. Unfortunately, from administrative sources, we cannot produce migration statistics for monthly, for quarterly, etc. Just it is annual numbers, and big data really is solution for this gap as well.
Thank you, Sharina. I see a lot of questions about ethical dilemmas of monitoring mobile phones. I have to clarify that we are not monitoring mobile phones. We are just using data produced by telephone companies. They use the CDRs for billing. So they have to, if you have to pay the bill for the use of mobile phone, they produce some data. And we use this data they produce to make some statistics. The data is anonymous. We don't have the name of the person, and we don't have access to the talk of they are sharing. We have CDRs are only the number of the phone that we can anonymize it. We don't need to see the number of the phone. We have the geographic coordinates of the tower that was used to communication. So it's not exactly the coordinates of the person, but the tower, and it's and the time, the day of the event. The event can be a call of a message, a text message. So we are not monitoring. We are using a data produced by the company, the telephone companies. So we can't see any legal or ethical problems here. Just to clarify, because I see a lot of questions in the chat about that. So we are not monitoring, we are not following the mobile users, okay? It's okay to use this kind of data. We have more questions, but we don't have enough time to answer. So we have only 2 minutes to finish. So Andrea, please, could you save the chat and send the questions for me so I can send to Cynthia and Shorena? We can provide a feedback to our audience, okay? And I would like to thank you for the audience. We have a lot of persons here. A lot. We are having now more than 100. We will have a break for the holidays, and January is a vacation month, but in February we'll be back. In February we'll have a webinar about stories. So I hope you will be back here to understand a little bit more about the use of MPD. And thank you very much for being here with us. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays for everyone.